Good evening, Dolphins fans. Welcome to another episode of On the FinSide here with Kat and Paul. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Spreaker, iTunes, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. I'm Brian Cat NFL. Paul is fanatic_pick on Twitter. The Dolphins lose today 31-23 to the Seattle Seahawks in Miami, a game that was pretty close, pretty competitive throughout the entire game. But Paul, the old saying goes that you can't bring a knife to a gunfight, and that's what the Dolphins did. They brought field goals. The Seahawks brought touchdowns. And when you look at the middle of the game, when the Dolphins were in competition, they were kicking field goals. 5 drives in a row, 9 plays, 54 yards, 8 plays, 64 yards, 10 plays, 48 yards, 10 plays, 55 yards, 17 plays, 73 yards, field goals on every drive. The Dolphins won the possession battle, but kicked field goals and did not win the game against the Seahawks here.
Yeah, I mean, and in reality, the fact that they did all of that and the Seahawks capitalized for 14 points off of 2 turnovers, which you get, even if you had drives stall and managed to keep them capitalizing off of 2 turnovers there, you won. And there was a lot of reasons for hope in this game. But at the end of the day, Miami wasn't able to close. And hopefully that's something we see get rectified. They've got personnel to make it right. Not so sold on the coordinators. And in reality, I'm starting to lean, and I never thought I'd say this, and I know you never thought I'd say this, but I'm starting to lean into the camp of Tua time. Especially after some footage leaked to him in practice this past week and from Chester Rogers. And God, he looked like somebody that could get it done if given the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, that's a frustrating thing because Ryan Fitzpatrick runs for 50 yards. He throws for 315 yards. The Dolphins are moving the ball on offense, and he has a good rhythm with Devante Parker, who had an outstanding game, and the rest of the offensive cast. But in a game like this, the Dolphins did not come away with the victory. They kicked 5 field goals. They only score 15 points in the first 55 minutes of the game, and then score a garbage touchdown at the end. But to me, the more important thing here, Paul, is Joe Burrow with the Bengals has his 3rd game in a row. He has his first win as a pro. He's thrown for a lot of yards. Justin Herbert for the Chargers gets accidentally put in the game a couple of weeks ago and shows this big league arm as well that we saw during the pre-draft process. And Tua sitting there on the bench and you pan to the sideline, you've got Tua and Ryan Fitzpatrick, where Fitzpatrick can't get the ball in the end zone and Tua sitting there. I mean, what do you do at that point?
Yeah, I don't want to see Jason Sanders be our all-pro player of the game ever again. I love him. He was absolutely money today, but it's tough. It's when you see those 2 turnovers and the inability to get it in the end zone, you have to make a change somewhere. You see, and they're not going to make a change with Chan Gailey right now. They're just not. I mean, which is unfortunate because you see Gaskin was actually effective against the Seattle defense. He averaged 4 yards a carry, was getting it done, didn't get enough carries. I think we were midway through the 4th quarter, and you and I were talking about Devante Parker going over 100 yards, and we went, he has as many catches as Gaskin has carries right now. And that's not a good place to be with somebody that's supposedly putting forth a balanced offense and not getting it done in the red zone.
Yeah, Myles Gaskin only had 2 carries at halftime, and that was a little bit bizarre as far as the balance we're looking to see on the offensive side of the ball. But going back to one last time before we put it to bed, I mean, the Dolphins are 1-3 now, and when you look at their upcoming schedule, they play at San Francisco next week. They're a banged up team. They play at Denver, who's terrible. Then they play the Chargers and the Rams at home. A tough game at Arizona, and then the Jets twice. I mean, the case could be made that if there is a time to put in Tua, this is that time at 1-3.
Yeah, it's and if Miami does fall to 1-4 next week, because let's face it, San Fran's not making any excuses. They're down an NBA team in starters, and they're still getting the job done. And the offensive line has shown it can hold up enough that we can trust them in front of Tua. And I hate to say it, we also have to factor in, and people are going to hate me for saying this, we have to factor in the fact that the Texans are winless right now, and Miami holds their first-round pick. The Texans' first-round pick is looking more and more like it's going to be a top 3 pick at this point in time. And you've got Sunshine and Fields coming out next year that if Tua can't hold up in the durability thing that we all hope is not the case, we need to know. We need to see it now. And the team needs to see it now so they know what to do with that Texans pick next year. I mean, it'd be beautiful if they could grab Penei Sewell and throw him in at right tackle, have Robert Hunt maybe be the eventual left guard, and suddenly you've got a young, dominant core along that offensive line. But they're not going to know that if Tua doesn't sniff the field.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of when Tua gets in at this point, because Fitzpatrick's not going to survive the entire year, in my opinion. With the way that he's playing, he's not going to be able to throw the ball 50 times a game and run it again 8 to 10 times and burrow head first into Pro Bowl linebacker. It's just not going to happen. I mean, so it's a matter of when they're put in, and the big thing too is the offensive line has shown that it is at least respectable at this point, where you can actually put into and you don't have to worry about him getting absolutely slaughtered. Maybe he won't get out of Dodge as quickly as Fitzpatrick, but he will be able to at least stay upright, you would hope, among the offensive line here. So, but Paul, on the defensive side of the ball, I've got to say Noah Igbenogany and Jamal Perry are major problems at this point. It was a shame in this game. Russell Wilson throws for 360 yards, and that's not a huge surprise. Russell Wilson is on pace to be MVP of this league. He's got 16 touchdowns, 2 interceptions for the year, but Noah Igbenogany gives up 2 major plays in this game. One of them is before halftime. Russell Wilson rolls to the left and just bombs the ball 57 yards, caught by David Moore, goes out of bounds, and then he throws a touchdown to Travis Homer, former Miami Hurricane, 2 plays later. And then David Moore, with 5.5 minutes left in the game, catches the pass on Noah Igbenogany too. Noah Igbenogany, Jamal Perry, borderline unplayable at this point.
Yeah. Perry more so, I think, than Igbenogany. I think Igbenogany is learning. He's shown the potential. I think it was a blown coverage by Perry, and we'll find out more in the coming days, more likely, on that long touchdown. It looked like Igbenogany was supposed to come off of his guy there and play more of a zone, and that Perry was supposed to pick him up deep, and he was late getting over. And we all saw what happened from there. Perry is somebody, whether he's gone by the name of Wilkes or Perry or, Captain Joe Smith or whatever the hell he's going by this week, he's a problem back there. He has been. It's, he made a tackle today and even made that look like an adventure. I'm really over that experiment at this point. I would rather see Tay Hayes get thrown in out of position and see how Igbenogany develops, especially if we're talking 1-3 or potentially even 1-4 or 2-4 at some point in the near future or what have you. It's, let's see what we've got in Igbenogany, see how he can develop. And let's face it, in a couple of weeks, he's going to be back to being the number 3 corner behind Byron Jones and Xavier Howard.
Yeah, and Xavier Howard gave up a 37-yard pass to DK Metcalf in the first series of the game for the Seahawks. But other than that, he had a phenomenal game. And Russell Wilson he was picked off for the second time in the last, I believe, 10 contests. And it was a huge interception. The Dolphins were down 17-9 at that time. And Xavier Howard has an interception in the end zone. Xavier Howard now has 14 interceptions in the last 26 football games. I mean, that is an incredible amount of turnovers for somebody like that. If this guy can just stay healthy, I hope he's on the team for a long period of time. One thing too, Paul, I liked in this game too is, we really dogged the defensive ends for the Dolphins in the first two games of the year, Shaq Lawson and Emmanuel Ogbah. But I really think they've come on in the last two games here. They've certainly provided a lot more pressure on the quarterback. I'm not saying that it was constant pressure, but I thought Lawson had a very good game. I thought Ogbah had a very good game providing pressure when they had that opportunity.
Yeah, I was really impressed with them, and not just with the pass rush, but also in terms of setting the edge against the run. There were a few plays where, you really, really saw them keep containment, and it was very obvious too when a guy that we're both high on in Andrew Van Ginkel got in there and failed to set the edge, which was unfortunate. But again, it's the DEs played well, and another guy that played well on the defense today, somebody we keep talking about, Zach Sealer. I mean, he just was a terror when he got on the field 90% of his snaps, and I want to see more and more of him out there.
Yeah, if Raekwon Davis is on the field and not Zach Sealer, that just doesn't make sense to me anymore. So, but let's take a look at the grades here, Paul. At the quarterback spot, Ryan Fitzpatrick, 29 for 45, 315 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, also a rushing touchdown late. We were texting back and forth saying, man, Ryan Fitzpatrick should have had at least 3 interceptions by this point, but they weren't interceptions, and I don't know what to do with that. So when you take a look at 5 drives in a row where they've got 9 plays, 54 yards, 8 for 64, 10 for 48, 10 for 55, 17 for 73. They are getting down the field. They are moving the chains, but they're not getting in the end zone. So I don't know. I go back and forth on this, and I'm right in the middle. So I'm just going to go with a C+.
I know exactly what to do with it. I'm going to give the man a D+ for today. He didn't look comfy in the pocket even when it was there. He threw a lot of contested catches where his receivers bailed him out. It looked like he was trying to hit the Seahawks in the chest, not the Dolphins. And he got destroyed by the linebacking core of Seattle. I can't count the number of batted balls, and I'm going to run it from a fat guy is not the ideal you want from your quarterback every time you get anywhere within sniffing distance of the end zone. He got in on one of them, and I do appreciate the toughness. But Jesus, we've got Twin Towers, we've got the tight ends. We're getting it done at times today, and Gesicki's got less targets than Durham Smythe going into the fourth quarter, and I think he had less than Adam Shaheen at that point. There's something funky going on here, and end of the day, Fitz is supposed to be a guy that's creating when shit breaks down, and today he wasn't doing that, especially the closer they got to the end zone. So I'm going to go with a D+, and only because he got that rushing touchdown towards the end.
At the running back spot, I think you like this group a little bit more than I do. I mean, look, Myles Gaskin, it's really hard. He's kind of like the running back version of Jay Fiedler from 20 years ago, where I can't dislike the guy because he's doing the best that he can. He's just not all that talented. He had 10 carries for 40 yards here today. Breaks tackles. That's really the best that he can do. Matt Breida, I think that he needed to get on the field more, because when he started humming, the Dolphins took him off the field. There was a drive in the third quarter where Jordan Howard got out there, and I did not understand that whatsoever. And then they took him off the field immediately. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with a. I'm gonna go with a C plus here for the running backs.
I almost feel like we need to go with an incomplete at this point. I mean, you take away Fitzpatrick and you've got 16 carries in a game that was tight almost right up till the end. You've got 16 carries for about 50 yards, and it's. I thought Gaskin was running well. I thought Breda was running well. We had a Chandler Cox sighting catching a first down pass, and excuse me. Ugh.
You all right, dog?
What's that?
You all right?
Oh yeah. I get those good sneezes. It's allergy season. But every time it felt like they got going, they got away from it, like you said with Breda. So since we can't give it incomplete, I've got to go with a C here.
Yeah, that's certainly fair. At the receiver tight end position, is Devante Parker in the first drive of the game goes down with an injury, and I thought, oh man, that's gonna really throw off everything in this game. And then he comes back and he catches 10 passes for 110 yards. Now, granted, a lot of it was underneath stuff, but he broke a lot of tackles. He fought through the pain, and he made a lot of great catches too. One play that he really missed on 3rd and 5 when the Dolphins were down 17-9, ball goes right through his hands. Dolphins have to kick a field goal instead. But he made more plays than he missed. But to go a step further, I appreciate that Devante Parker plays through pain now. And he was asked last week by a reporter about playing through pain, and he said, I really don't have a choice but to play through pain. So kudos to him on that. And but the rest of the receiving unit did not have more than 40 yards other than Isaiah Ford. Preston Williams, I've got to say at this point, he's got to do more. I mean, this is somebody that in a game like against Seattle, he can't put up that stat line that he had. Isaiah Ford also in the slot, 44 yards, and he did a good job today. At tight end, Mike Gesicki, and when I go back and look at the all-22, I'm pretty sure I'm going to see the Seahawks making Gesicki a big priority there. So, but yeah, given that the Dolphins moved the ball and probably moved and did move it through the air, I'm going to give this receiving and tight end unit a B plus here.
Yeah, they were one of the bright spots on offense today. I think they bailed Fitz out a few situations, and as good as I think Fitz was last week, I think his receivers bailed him out a lot in this one. And that not just Isaiah Ford, but Durham Smythe, I thought probably had his best game as a Dolphin. I really liked Isaiah Ford in the receiving game today, and outside of that, I think Jakeem Grant got a few chances and continues to impress with the opportunities given on offense. I just don't think he's given enough opportunities here. But like you said, Preston Williams was a down spot for me in this one. He really, for somebody that was supposed to be able to take over potentially as a number one receiver this year, coming back from injury, he doesn't look like the same guy we saw last year. I still continue to refer to him as Butter Shoes, and he hasn't shaken that nickname for me yet. And then, Shaheen, I could take or leave, but he's really in all actuality our third tight end. I can give these guys a B at the receiving core. It's a solid B.
Yeah, and Devante Parker gets an A, and the rest of the unit gets a C or a C plus. Preston Williams, 1 catch for 15 yards. I mean, coming off a torn ACL, it's clear that we're seeing it at this point because he's not separating, and that's a problem. Mike Gesicki, 1 catch for 15 yards too. Adam Shaheen, no catches for no yards. Durham Smythe, 2 catches for 30.
To be fair, on Shaheen's no catch on I think what was his one target, Fitzpatrick literally tried to throw it through 2 Seattle players.
That's right.
Chests, like not even just through their hands. He tried to throw it through directly in between the numbers on 2 Seattle players on that play.
Yeah, he did. He tried to do that on a few occasions, and that's that's as much as Fitz likes to run around. That's not good enough either. The offensive line, Paul. I'm going to throw it back to you on that.
I didn't have a problem with the O line in this one, and that just doesn't extend to the starters. Austin Jackson went down with a foot injury, and God, what's his face stepped in, and he was serviceable in this one. Flowers had a holding penalty at one point. I was okay with that. I mean, it's going to happen. Uh, it didn't. It really wasn't what broke Miami today, and they allowed 1 sack, 4 tackles for loss. They opened up some running lanes when called upon, and it's almost comical to me when you see Devante Parker catch a ball downfield. You see Solomon Kinley come flying down and try to knock somebody away from him, which I love. That's a huge thing to me. I thought Kinley played well. Jesse Davis played okay. Robert Hunt got in there a few times. I'll give this unit an A- in this one. They were not the problem in any way, shape, or form in this game.
Yeah, I don't think they were the problem either. I mean, they gave up 1 sack on the day, and that's what overall I judge them at with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. I'm going to give them a B. I thought they were solid. I don't think they did anything special. But Fitzpatrick did drop back 49 times and was only sacked 1 time. The running backs combined had 3.4 yards a carry. So not a lot of running room inside. But then again, the Seahawks are also a team that's pretty good this year at defending the run. So that makes a lot of sense. On the defensive side of the ball, Seahawks only had the ball for 26 minutes in this game. Dolphins had it for 34. As far as the front seven's concerned, we've talked about a lot already, but Emmanuel Ogbah and Shaq Lawson, I thought played very well at the defensive end spot. They were pushing the pocket, and I think they're relieved to see a quarterback that's not Josh Allen and is not Cam Newton. Russell Wilson, yes, he's a very talented quarterback, but he's also a drop back quarterback in somebody that wins from inside the pocket at this point in his career. So they put a decent amount of pressure on the quarterback on the front seven. I really do like Kyle Van Noy at the linebacker spot. I think he's an opportunistic linebacker. I think he keeps the rest of that front seven in place, and he huddles the troops together and tells them to tighten up when that situation calls for it. Landon Roberts is somebody who I still don't think should see the field. I hope we see a lot more of Kamu Grugier-Hill in the upcoming weeks too. So, it's 16 carries for 80 yards from Chris Carson. Russell Wilson threw us for 360 with not a lot of pressure. Overall, going to give this unit a C+.
I'll give this unit. This is such a weird unit for me. I didn't have a huge problem with the linebackers outside of the Landon Roberts. Not Jerome Baker's best game, not his worst. Kyle Van Noy is somebody who has continued to grow on me and be a little more of that player I expected in the beginning of the season that took a little while to round out into form with a new team. So I'll give him that. I thought Christian Wilkins was a little ineffective today, which he's been a guy that I think has played well. I just think he had a down day today. One thing I thought was interesting, and I love what you said about the DNs. I won't harp on that. We've already talked about that. But one thing I thought was interesting and something I wanted to expand on with Sealer is while he may seem like a secret to Dolphins fans at this point, even amongst some Dolphins fans, he wasn't a secret to the Seahawks today. I continued to see moments he was drawing double teams, and that's despite the pressure we saw from our DNs. That's despite the fact that he was playing next to a Davin Godchow or a Christian Wilkins. He really, really is starting to get noticed by the other teams that are game planning for when he's on the field, it seems like.
Yeah.
I'll give him a B. But yeah.
He's got a lot of size, that's for sure. And because this is one of our, we're starting to do the Zoom this year. I just learned my lesson. I'm wearing a gray sweatshirt, and I just drank some water, and I spilt a bunch on my shirt here, which will So I'm probably the Coke bus player of the game here, as far as that's concerned. Anyway, what we're talking about here. The defensive line, you're going to go with a B. Okay. Yeah. I'm at a C plus. I can understand that. Defensive back. I mean, I don't care who you play. If I don't care if it's Russell Wilson, I don't care if it's Tom Brady in his prime, I don't care if it's Peyton Manning in his prime. If a quarterback has the ball for 26 minutes and throws for 360 yards, that unit is not getting a high grade for me. Xavier Howard, again, allows a 37-yard completion to DK Metcalf at the beginning of the game. I thought he was fantastic throughout the rest of the game and had a real game-turning play when the Dolphins, at the end of a long drive, he undercuts a route in the end zone and intercepts the pass when the Dolphins are down 17-9 at that point, turned the whole game around. It is something that could have gotten the Dolphins in the win column. But Bobby McCain, I've got to say, Bobby McCain saved the game too after the first 9 minutes, because he had he on a blitz, he got into the backfield and interrupted Russell Wilson for a big play. And then a couple of plays later, he knocked the ball out of the hands of DK Metcalf over the middle too. So I got to say, he had a fantastic game. Somebody I don't have very kind words for usually, but no Igbenogany, Jamal Perry, like we talked about earlier in the episode, they're problems right now. And I don't know how that gets fixed. And so when you look at 360 yards, even with Xavier Howard, Eric Rowe, and Bobby McCain playing very well, I can't give this any higher than a C minus.
Yeah, I thought Eric Rowe played well. Bobby McCain had some additional moments where he saved plays down the sidelines and really was all over the field. I want to see him blitz a little bit more. I like the way that looked when he did today. Xavier Howard, again, I won't say anything bad about him here. I love that interception, the way he jumped that route on that play. It's Igbenogany, I think, as we said before, he's going to have some growing pains. I don't blame him on that long one still. I still think it was a handoff to Perry that was supposed to occur, and Perry looked like, it's watching replays of it, you see Perry jump like, oh crap, I'm supposed to be over there, and by then it was too late. You're going against one of the best passing attacks in the league. It's something where, Russell Wilson had 14 touchdowns through the first 3 games.
Yep.
Through 5 touchdowns in 2 straight, and they held him to 2 touchdowns today through the air. There is something to be said for that, given how prolific their passing attack has been in Seattle, and in a game where they had to pass the ball because it was tight the whole way through. They did limit him, and it's weird to say when it's 360 yards and 2 touchdowns, but they did limit him. And I'm not going to dig them a big hole for the poor play of Jamal Perry and a few struggles by a rookie. I'll give them a B minus here, and I feel like I'm being a little weak on them by doing that.
Yeah, and I understand why Igbenogany has struggled on a few of these plays, because overall, I think for the game, he plays pretty well. And we're going to find out here probably in the upcoming days here, whether Igbenogany or Perry was responsible for that. Cause I've seen that play several times and I can't quite piece it together. Igbenogany has a good reason why he's not playing at an elite level. He's not even 21 years old, but to me, he is still not playing at a very high level right now, or he's at least mistake prone from game to game. So we'll see how that materializes here throughout the rest of the season. Special teams, not much else to say. I mean, I'm going to give him an A. Jason Sanders, 5 field goals. Matt Hawk had 1 punt in this game for 51 yards. So they get an A. I mean, because they didn't do anything wrong as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, they even pinned the Seahawks deep at the 10 on a kickoff.
Yeah, they did.
So I'll mirror the A there. I mean, not a lot to say on this one. They had one stupid penalty for lining up wrong, and again, I think it was numbnuts there that we didn't touch on in the D line segment, but I don't want to touch on him again, considering we could have had AJ Dillon with that pick. But again, it's one penalty on special teams that got declined. I'll take it.
You and AJ Dillon, I swear to God.
Tell me you wouldn't. Tell me if your choice right now, if you had to choose between Raekwon Davis and AJ Dillon, based on the little sample size thus far, which way would you go?
Well, it's not really a fair question. I draft you over.
Question.
I would draft you over Raekwon Davis right now. I don't care what PFF says.
You can say AJ Dillon, Cat.
Yeah, well, I mean, AJ Dillon in his what does he have on the year? 12 carries for 36 yards, or
is that more effective than anything Raekwon Davis has done?
Yeah, probably. So I guess you win that. But yeah, and at least it would add some beef into the backfield too. So yeah, you know what?
It would might be Jordan Howard and Raekwon Davis.
Oh, okay. That'll win me over. So yeah, I think you're right on that.
I think I just got an A there, didn't I?
Yeah, I think so. I'm gonna throw it back to you one last time here, Paul. Player of the game, Coke Bus player of the game for you.
I'm gonna go Devante Parker for the player of the game. He played through injury, he fought back, and he made some catches with players all over him in this one, and really set Miami up in a position where they should have been able to win this game. I'll give it to Devante for player of the game. Coke Bus player of the game. Well, for our listeners, Kat and I made an agreement because I spent a little too much time a couple years ago playing with my Coke Bus and putting coaches on there, that we wouldn't do that anymore. So Chan Gailey, you're safe. Pat Graham, you're safe. But unfortunately, I think if the coaching's not getting it done on offense, it's the quarterback's job to step up and get it done. And 14 points off of 2 interceptions, not good enough. Not being able to get it done, even though they drove down the field in the red zone, not good enough. And that's where one of Fitzpatrick's strengths is his ability to get creative in situations where things break down. If things break down in the red zone, he's got to get it done. So as good as he was against the Jags a week and a half ago, I got to give it to him here in a game Miami should have, could have won. All it would have taken was just a little bit more out of him, and they would have had it.
Yeah, I mean, that's both sides of the ball. Chan Gailey and Josh Boyer, not great games called. I can certainly understand that. My player of the game is going to be Bobby McCain, because for everything that I've said about him, I felt that if he had not made those 2 plays in the second drive of the game against the Seahawks, that this game could have got really out of hand early on. And he broke through the line of scrimmage on a blitz and forced Russell Wilson outside of the pocket. And then a couple plays later, he comes down to DK Metcalf, who's 7 inches taller than him, and knocks the ball out of his hands. He had several more good plays in the game too. So with everything we've said about the defensive backs and Russell Wilson throwing for 360 yards, I don't blame Bobby McCain for that. My Coke Bus player of the game for a second week in a row, and I think this one is going to stick, is Noah Igbenogany.
You said good things after last time. You said good things after.
I did. In fact, I take back what I said last time, because even though he had 2 touchdowns that could have been thrown against him against the Jaguars, those didn't get let up. But this one here, I really think at this point that in the upcoming games, he's going to get the blame there for that David Moore 57-yard touchdown before halftime. And we know he gets the blame as well with 5.5 minutes left for David Moore having another touchdown there too. So Noah Igbenogany has potential. Don't get me wrong, but I don't see that still doesn't mean he had a good game at this point. He's got some learning to do, and that's what he's got to do. So that's going to do it here for our breakdown of the Dolphins Seahawks game. The Dolphins lose this one 31-23 to the Seattle Seahawks. You can follow Paul and I on Facebook, Twitter, Spreaker, iTunes, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. I'm Brian Cat NFL. Paul is Fanatic_pick. And if it's not on the right side and it's not on the left side, it is on the fin side.